In this lesson, we'll be talking about various other attributes that you can use with pages and dialogues in jQuery Mobile. Specifically, we'll be talking about preloading pages and giving pages titles. Let's start with giving pages titles. If you want to follow along, open up singlepagetemplate.html, singlepagetemplate2.html, and multipagetemplate.html from your working files folder. We'll start on multipagetemplate.html. Here we have a multi-page setup, meaning we have several divs with data role equals page inside of the same document. Now, typically sites will get their title from this title tag up here in the head. jQuery Mobile is no exception. If I go over here and I refresh, you'll see that multi-page template is the title of my page. Now, if I hop back over into the document here and I want to specify a special, unique data title for this second page, I can add it by adding data title equals and then my title, page 2. If I save this and hop back over and do a refresh, now when I click on show page 2, it pulls it in and it sees page 2 as the data title. Now, if I were to leave that off, it would find the title multi-page template. And that's the same title tag we have up here in the head. So in lieu of data title being specified on a page element, it'll just go ahead and use that title up above. Now, when we're talking about a single page situation, where you have single page template and single page template 2, like we have here, if I click on this, it does an AJAX call and pulls in a completely separate file. Now, in that case, it grabs the title tag from the head of the document that it's pulling in. In this case, single page template. If I change this to page 2 and I refresh, when I click pull in a new page, it loads up page 2. Now, I had to do an extra refresh there because it had actually cached the page. When you're testing things like this, it's a good idea to clear your browsing data ever so often. Emptying the cache will prevent you from having those kinds of issues. Chrome and certain other browsers allow you to remove objects from your browsing history by time. That means if you've been developing for the last hour, you can clear history from just that hour, instead of clearing all of your history, potentially wiping out personal things you have. So that's how jQuery Mobile finds the titles of pages. Now let's talk about preloading. Now, preloading or prefetching pages is really useful. Prefetching a page means the browser will grab that page before the user clicks on it. Now, this has advantages because when the user clicks on it, the page will be there and loaded. It also has disadvantages because it stresses the device's internet connection a little bit as it fetches the asset that the user may or may not need. In order to make page prefetching work, all you have to do is find that anchor tag. Now, in this case, my anchor tag is right here. There's my href, and now I just want to say data prefetch equals true. When jQuery Mobile sees that, it'll dispatch an AJAX call and grab in that page. That way the page is ready when the user does click on it. Now, you want to be careful not to use data prefetch too often because, as I mentioned, it'll stress the user's internet connection and also might make the rest of your application load a little bit slower. Another reason, even if bandwidth isn't an issue, is the size of the DOM. If the DOM gets a little bit too big, then the page is going to make your browser a little bit sluggish. Now, typically that's not nearly as big of a concern as data, but it's one you want to keep in mind. Now, in addition, you can choose to cache pages you've already visited. Here's how you do that. In this case, I have a div tag with data role equals page. This represents the entire page. If I add data DOM cache equals true, that's going to tell my browser not to discard that page. This way, if the user goes away from this page and eventually comes back to it, the page will be there and won't have to be loaded from the server in any situation. This one's also especially good if you have widgets on a certain page and you don't want those widgets to be thrown away from the DOM. This is probably because you probably have JavaScript objects that are associated with those widgets. And if the DOM object disappears, the JavaScript code that runs the widget won't know what to do, and the browser will start throwing errors all over the place. So that's how you do prefetching and caching. Data DOM cache equals true, and data prefetch. That concludes this lesson.